Hi, I'm Erin Morgenstern, and this is my author's bookshelf. This is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, and I first read the first volume of the inaccurately named trilogy of 5 books when I was in college, and I was in charge of cleaning out the basement storage in my dorm. Like, people had left old cardboard boxes full of things and forgotten them and graduated and then gone away, and like, things were sort of up for grabs. And one of those boxes, I found a paperback copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it had a dollar bill from 1934 stuck in it, and I don't know why. Yeah, it was the first thing I'd read for adults that really had a huge sense of fun to it, and it kind of opened my mind as far as possibilities of what kind of like what you can do with a humorous, whimsical, fun narrative for adults. It's just a fun volume too. This is Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. I first read this book in college for a modern women writers class, and my professor for that class had us read the prologue 1 sentence per person at a time, going around the room. And I still remember how that sounded. The first sentence of Alias Grace is, "Out of the gravel there are peonies growing," and I don't have to look that up. I can still hear it from hearing it in that room. That was 20 years ago now. And I think I learned more in that 2 minutes of listening to that prologue in that room about prose rhythm than from anything else I've studied. And I actually, I love the book so much that I wanted to have it in hardcover, and I found a used hardcover copy here at the Strand in the summer of 1999. And this year, 20 years later, I got Margaret Atwood to sign that very copy for me. It's like one of my most precious book possessions now. This is Wanderers by Chuck Wendig, which is one of the best books I've read in years, and I'm not just saying that because he's sitting behind the camera right now. I grew up reading Stephen King at a very, very young age, probably too young an age. I kind of wandered out of the children's section of my library and over into the adult section, and there were these big fat books sitting on the bottom shelf, and I was like, what are these? They were all the Stephen Kings. So I read a lot of Stephen King when I was like 11, 12, 13. And when I was trying to curate this list for the Strand of like the author bookshelf reads, I kept thinking of those and I couldn't choose one. And so I kept thinking about this book, which is a more modern take on some of the ideas in the Strand, and sort of spoke to me more now as an adult reader in that same way that those Stephen King books that you can really get lost in and they feel real and unreal at the same time. Yeah, highly recommended. Hi, Chuck.
Hi.
This is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I love Shirley Jackson. I love the way she writes. I love the sound of her prose. I waffled over whether to include this one or We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is another one of my very favorites. But I think about this book all the time. This is the sort of book that like comes like unexpectedly back into my brain sometimes. And I already have people sort of asking me what I'm working on next. And the only hints I will give right now are that because The Night Circus is a very autumnal book and The Starless is a very winter book, I clearly have to write a spring book next. So it's a spring book, and I am rereading a lot of my Shirley Jackson. So that's all you get as a little flavor hint. Okay, this is The Starless Sea by me. It's my second book, and after The Night Circus, I thought a lot about what I wanted to write and why I was writing a book at all, because it was a lot of pressure to follow that up. And I started thinking about books and books about stories. And when I started writing, I thought I was writing a book about books, and it slowly morphed into a book about stories. And there are many books within the book and many stories within the story, but at the core of it, it's about a guy named Zachary who, when he was about 11, found a painted door that if he had tried to open it would have taken him somewhere extraordinary, but he did not open it. And about 14 years later, that story is going to catch up with him. This is my favorite bookstore. Thank you. This is like, you can say it on camera. The Strand is my favorite bookstore. Don't tell all the other bookstores, but you're my favorite.